Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? In this video, we're going to take a look at the user administrative tasks that you're going to run into when you're dealing with a Linux operating system. Now, quick disclaimer, sometimes these commands are not always available on every Linux operating system. So for example, you may find that some of these commands are different between Ubuntu and CentOS. You may find that they're identical. As Linux evolves, and as you know, this is on the CentOS version 9. When they get to version 11 or 12 next year, the year after, whenever it may be, you might find that the commands are different, or they're changed, or they've been depreciated, and there's a newer package or a newer program that you can download and be able to administer your devices, or I'm sorry, your users. So just do a little bit of research first whenever you're dealing with a Linux operating system. You may find that one command is there and here, and it's not over there. It's not a big deal. The process itself is always going to be the same. I'll show you some little tricks here to try and get through the help menu and try to limp yourself along if you're new. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's get started. So I've logged into my CentOS machine. We're going to come over here to settings. And one of the things about this settings box is that it will leave you exactly where you left off. So for example, if I'm in network here and I close it and I go back into settings, what you're going to find is that I'm on the network tab. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you'll notice here that it says unlock to add users or change settings and change settings. So this is kind of like multi-factor authentication, if you will. So if this box had been compromised by somebody who just happened to use a password file and cracked my password, they'd have to actually know the password in order to actually add a user if they wanted to add like a backdoor user or something like that. So I'm going to say unlock, and let me move my mic out of the way so I can type the password here. So now we can go ahead and we can create a user. So I'm going to say add user. Now here, this is not a tab. This is actually just two different buttons, so we can select whether we want a standard user or an administrative user. We're going to say UI USR for user, so it's a user interface, a user. We'll come down here. We'll give him a super duper top secret password. We'll go ahead and tab down. We'll type in the super duper top secret password again. Here for the enterprise login, if we wanted to actually sync this user with a domain, we could go ahead and do that. We're not going to in this video. That's tinkering for another day. So we'll just go ahead and we'll create this user. Now, once this user is created, if I come over here and I click the pencil, I can change the name. If I click the the button here, I can give him an icon if I want to. Now I'm going to switch them over to an administrator. So here's where you can change the permissions. You can change the language. Very simple. I can change the password if I needed to or wanted to. And then here you can see the account activity. If I actually go over to administrator and I click on my activity, you can see that I started my session yesterday at 10. That's when I logged in. I'm still actually logged in from yesterday morning, so my session is still there. But here's where you would see some of that data. Now, the last thing that I want to point out to you is that at the bottom of your screen, you'll notice there is a remove user. If I click that, you'll notice how it gives me a pop-up and it says, okay, listen, we'll delete the user, sure. Do you want to keep the files or delete the files? It's very important to remember that by default, if you go into the CLI, which is going to be the rest of this video, if you are in the CLI and you go to remove a user, what's going to happen is it's automatically going to delete the user, but it's going to leave all of the files. And this is both good and bad. It's good because if you're escorting a user off the premises, or it's an accidental delete, whatever files you downloaded, whatever anything was there, you're going to be able to go back and still find it and see it. But it's bad because if you're doing a bulk delete or something like that, you're trying to clean up users or users that are no longer there, you're going to have to remember to go in and delete the actual files. So we'll say cancel here, and I want to go into the UI. So let me just load up Secure CRT here really quick, and we'll go ahead and we'll log into the box. Now, the first command that I want to show you here is the who command. What this is going to do is this is going to display every logged in user. So let me just go open up another putty session. So we'll say 10.99.9.25. That's the session here. We'll say UI USR. We'll type in our super duper top secret password. And now if I up arrow once in my original session and we type the who command, you'll notice that now I have two users that are logged in from the same IP address, which of course is the desktop I'm recording this video on. We'll just close out of that putty session. We'll up arrow once again, and you can see the session is gone. So the who command is going to be there to give us a list of users that are currently logged in, and obviously from what source address. The next thing that I want to do is, what if I want to get a list of all the users? So when we were in the UI, you notice that the only users that were displayed were the admin user that I was logged in as and the testing user that we set up. What if I want to get all of the users? Well, the getent command is what we're going to use for that. And by the way, quick tip, the man command, so if I say, look, I remember that it was getent, but I don't remember all of the switches, I don't remember what it really does, I can use the man command and say getent, or any command if I wanted to use you know, the SS command in the networking video, if I wanted to use, you know, the sudo command, whatever it is, and I want to know what it's for, I can put the man command in front, and I can go ahead and I can start reading through exactly what this command does. I can just enter down and read everything it does. When I'm done, I can just hit Q and I exit out of the screen. The other thing that I can do is I can say getent -- help, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me kind of a summarized version of all the different options that I would have with that particular command. So I'm going to say getent, and I'm going to say passwd, or password. It's obviously an abbreviation of password. When I hit enter, what it's going to do is it's going to spit out all of the user accounts that are on this machine. These are basically not only the user accounts that we've created, but they're also the service accounts. And so this is a great list to see, but what if I want to get this shortened up, right? What if there's a specific user that I'm looking for? I can say getent passwd, and then I can just type in the user. So we'll say, what is it, UI USR, and there's the individual user. Now, don't forget that you can also use some UI tricks, some CLI tricks. So I can say getent, I can say passwd, and then I can use the grep command, just like this, and I can say, show me every user that has USR in the username. So grep is going to basically do a screen scrape. It's going to say, okay, out of all of this output, let me just narrow it down to whatever essentially I put after grep. So what I did here was I said, look, I only want to see the output that contains USR. So if every user that I had on the box had a specific username pattern, maybe they were all in finance, and I said, okay, it's always, you know, username - finance or something, I could say, just show me all the finance users. So that's how you can kind of shrink this screen down a little bit. You can either just enter the username like I did here, or you can grep it and essentially narrow down the list. So let's add a CLI user. Now, in the networking video, if you watch that one, I showed you how the tab key will automatically finish the command for you, assuming that that command exists, obviously, and assuming that Linux knows the command you're trying to enter. Watch what happens when I hit tab. Nothing happens. In fact, I don't know if you heard it, but my machine gave that little error message, like a ding, you know, that's nothing happens. Watch what happens when I hit tab again. When I hit tab again, Linux says, okay, cool, dude, I know you're trying to, you know, finish this command. I know you want me to finish this for you, but I have 4 different options for you. If you had 8 options and you hit tab twice, it's going to come up with all those different options. My point of this is, if you're trying to add a user and you don't remember the command, but you know that you're after something based on users, you can just type user, hit the tab key twice. So let me back up again. I'll just hit R, tab, boom, it comes up again. What if I wanted to create a group? Well, I know that I'm trying to do something with a group, tab, and there are my group options. So if I want to create a finance group, or you know, a human resources group, whatever that may be, and I know that I'm trying to do something with a group, but I don't remember the command. I know it has something to do with group. I can type group and then obviously the tab key twice, and it comes up. So we'll say useradd, and then I'm going to do -- help, because this is where, again, you're going to be able to see all of the different options that you would be able to use for this particular user. Now we're just going to keep it simple here for now. I'm just going to say CLI USR for user, but you'll notice I forgot to escalate my privilege, so we'll say sudo switch user. That's what SU stands for, by the way. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in any other videos, but you know, it is what it is. So we'll escalate to root, and then I'll say user add CLI USR. Oops, I got to spell it correctly. CLI USR for user. Okay, cool. Now I've added this user. I want to show you essentially what happens when I delete it and then try to re-add it. So when I delete this user, I'm not going to use the option to delete the home directory. So we're going to say userdel CLI USR, and it's deleted. Watch what happens when I go to add it again. I'm going to get an error message that, hey, the home directory already exists, and so we're not going to recreate it. We're not going to create a new mailbox. We're not going to create any files because everything already exists. So in order to delete this user, I need to, let me actually go and show you the help here. Give me a second. So we'll just say -- help. I need to use the R option right here for remove. Now you can actually type -- remove, or you can just do -R. So we'll say userdel usr, and then we'll say CLI usr, and this is going to remove that home directory and all of the files. So we'll go ahead and add them again. So we'll say add useradd CLI usr, and now what we want to do is we want to give them a password, right? We want to actually be able to say, hey, you know what? We want to give this user a secure password. I could have done that when I was setting up the user, but again, it would have been less commands to show you and teach you, so I want to be able to show you a few different things. So I'm going to type passwd for password, followed by the user, again, -- help. I can go in and I can see all of the different options here for what I can do for a user. -L is a good one to remember, and -U is a good one to remember, because if you have a user that's logging in that's currently locked, you can either unlock them or you can lock the user. You can also expire the user at a certain point or expire the password at a certain point. So these are some good switches for you to remember when dealing with any type of user administration. So what we'll do is we'll say passwd for, I'll just say password for short, and then we're going to type the user. So we'll say CLI usr. We're going to hit enter, and it's going to say, hey, you know, what do you want this password to be? So we're going to type in our super duper top secret password. By the way, right now I have Linux. I have this version of CentOS set to use complex passwords. You can change that if you want. You know, just look up the commands. I just leave it alone because I use complex passwords anyway. So now I have my user created. If I go and I say get ent and I say, I forgot the command already, password, you'll see that I have CLI user and UI user right down here. So these are the users that essentially I have. Okay, let's actually, I want to just show you just one quick thing here. So we'll say grep and we'll say USR again. And now you're going to see these two guys down here. So this is what I mean by being able to shorten out the list. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a group. And the reason why I want to create a group is because what if I have a finance group or I have IT or I have something like that, and I want to be able to add this group. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before with the users, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to add this group. I don't remember what I'm doing. So we're going to tab twice and group add. Cool. Now if I do -- help, I'm going to be able to see all of the different options that I need. You know, if I wanted to encrypt the group with a password or whatever I'm going to do. In this case, I'm just adding the actual group. So I'm just going to say group add. We're just going to call it IT. So now this group is added, and to delete the group, if I wanted to, I'd say, oh, you know what, I made a mistake. I'm just going to say groupdel IT, and the group is deleted. So adding and removing groups within this platform is incredibly easy. So we'll actually just call this test for now. Now I want to add my user to this group, right? So what I want to actually do is I want to say, okay, I just created this user called CLI user. I want to add him to this group. So I'm going to say user, and again, tab twice. Well, I already entered it, so it's showing me the options twice. And I'm going to use the usermod command. So if I do, again, do -help, here's the different options that we can use. I'm going to say usermod, and then I'm going to use the -g, because if you look here, the -g is for groups. So what I want to do is I want to add this user to the group. And what did I say? I think it was test, right? Oh, no, you forgot. -test. Good. So now I'm going to add this user to test. Now, I just hit enter. And if you'll notice, hang on. If you'll notice, I made a mistake. What did I do? I forgot to actually add the username. So if I say test, now I'm going to add the user. So we'll say CLI USR. Right user? Yes. Okay, cool. Now, if I say groups and I say CLI USR and hit enter, it's going to tell me, oh, sorry, it's groups. I forgot the S at the end of it. You can see here that now it tells me that CLI user is a member of the test group. So this is how I can modify this. Now, if I say groupdel and I say test and I delete that group, and then I say groups, and then type in the user again, USR, you can see that he's no longer a member of the group. So adding groups, removing groups, pretty simple. Now there's one more thing that I want to do, and this is actually adding users to the wheel group. I know this kind of sounds weird, but the wheel group is it's kind of like a God's rights group that allows any user to do pretty much anything that they want based on the options that you set up within the group. Let me kind of show you what I mean. So if I say, I don't actually want to show you the file, so we'll say cat etsy and then su doers. And this group here is going to be, or I should say this file is going to be where you can make modifications. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So if I look down here and you look right here where it says allow people in the wheel group to run all commands, and you can see that it's not commented out. Once you add a user into this group, they're going to be allowed to essentially run and do anything that they want. So the way that we would do that is we would say usermod, we would say hyphen lowercase capital G, we would say wheel, and then we would just add the username. So I would say CLI user USR. And then essentially, if I say groups and I say CLI USR, you'll see that I'm a member of the wheel group, and I should be able to run anything that I want. Now, if you want to edit this file, you'll see here that there's an option here where it says allow members of this group. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Yeah, right here. Same thing without a password. So right here, you know, in this file, you can do pretty much anything that you want, but you need a password to do it. If I wanted to remove that, all I'd have to do is rem this out. So if I wanted to do that, or if I wanted to change the permissions of this, I would come in and I would say nano etsy / su doers. I would come in here and I would modify, just arrow down, just all the way down to the bottom where that option is, and I would come in here and I would say, you know what, I want them to have admin privileges. I don't want them to have admin privileges. You would just go and you would just comment out these particular options, right? So here, you know, I'm not a huge fan of them being able to do that without a password. So I'm not gonna edit this. I'm just gonna say no, because we don't want to edit the file. But anyway, guys, so these are just some very quick user-based tasks and user-based administrative commands that you're probably going to need to know. It is by no means an exhaustive list, so please go, you know, continue learning, continue reading. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video. I'll see you guys in the next one.